Okay, well, let's pick back up where we left off, working on this side of the hallway. Let's go ahead and do something pretty easy. Let's deal with the bricks. We're going to do it the same way we did over here. We're going to start with the odd row, and we're going to do kind of like some really small bricks that are going straight down. We're only going to do the odd rows, like 1 and 3 and 5 and 7. So we take our ruler, we butt it up with the bottom of our page, just like we have every time. By butting up that ruler, making sure it's flush and even, it keeps the ruler straight up and down. We also check our spacing here. Look at the distance between this line and this ruler, this line and this ruler. And as we do so, we're going to go with the first row, the third row, the fifth row, the seventh row, the ninth row. Now we're going to continue on those same rows. We're going to go down the same rows, just making those bricks. We're going to leave the even rows alone for right now. We'll come over here, we'll make it just a little bit bigger. And you can kind of look at this one to kind of give you some help, to kind of make it kind of like, hey, I want to make it look like it's got a similar progression. And that is fine if you're exactly in the middle of the hallway. Now sometimes you may be closer to one wall than the other, and there's a chance that maybe the bricks could look a little larger on one side just because you're closer to that side of the hallway. So that is something to keep in mind. But right now we're even Steven, so we're going to go ahead and just make it even all the way down. Make sure each brick gets progressively bigger, butting up that ruler every time. Again, if you angle your lines, it's going to look like a fun house, which sounds fun, but doesn't make for a nice looking drawing when you're trying to draw something realistically. Now, it's okay to break the rules when that's what you're wanting to do, but not if you're trying to draw something that's representational. Alright, so here we go. We're still doing the odd rows. We're about to come to the end of our locker. Again, just kind of looking at the space over here, just trying to use that as a guideline to kind of help us. I'm going to split that, I think, in half. I think I'm going to make it even with my locker, just for coincidence sake. Doesn't always work out that way. And then these are going to be like half bricks here. And then I don't want to forget about these. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this top brick in half, and I'm just going to go every other one and split it in half. That way it looks like it's alternating. So I take my ruler again and I make the bottom of it flush with the bottom of the page, or I could do the same thing at the top. Either way will work. And when I butt up that ruler, I look at the space between this line of my ruler all the way up and down and see if it looks even, and it appears to be even. Make a minor adjustment, make sure it's still flush, and now I'm going to make a mark every other line on the odd one only. Don't worry about this space, we'll get to it here after a while. And remember, you can stop this video anytime you need to, rewind it. If you didn't understand how I did something, stop and pause it and check it out again. Now, we're going to do the even rows. Well, we don't have to do these bricks. They look like they're a good brick length already. But we do need to do this one. So I'm going to go ahead and make it even with the locker, just because it looks nice that way. So I'm just going to kind of find, I'm going to use the end of the locker for this one. I'm going to butt up my ruler. Now you may not want to use the end of yours. Like yours may not work out like mine did. You just kind of hit the middle of this brick, and now you're going to find the middle of this brick. Again, butt up your ruler with the bottom of the page, find the middle of this brick, middle of the brick. There you go. And every time I'm making these marks, I'm making sure my ruler is butted up at the bottom of the page every time, even though you can't see it. That is what I'm doing to make sure that I'm keeping my line straight. And I can kind of tell by looking at them. Sometimes it's good to kind of see what you're doing if you do 2 or 3 instead of just doing all of them and then realizing, oh, they're all crooked. And then what I'm going to do here, it's kind of tricky right here. I usually don't like to leave these all solid. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to put a little bit of a brick line right here just to break it up, just so that way it doesn't look quite so predictable. And it's probably a little thin, but we'll go with it. Okay. Now let's dive into our lockers. Lockers are going to have kind of like little slits at the top of them, like for air to get in and out at the top and the bottom. We're only going to do the top, we're not going to do the bottom, but the way we do the top would be almost the same way you do the bottom. Just like earlier when we did the tops of these door frames, we said that we could not make the top of the door frame parallel to the brick line, perfectly parallel. If we did, it would look really, really huge down here. It would look odd. It would look off. Just like this brick is thicker and it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner as it's going down this way. Well, these slits, if you put them all perfectly side by side each other, they're going to look fine here, but they're going to look really, really crazy big down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a fake vanishing point. This is the one that we'd used from earlier. I don't think we're going to be able to use it. We might be able to use it. I think I'm going to use a different one this time because this is not a true vanishing point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I want my top slit to be about right here. I'm going to put my ruler underneath that line, and I'm just going to kind of angle my ruler. This line needs to fall in between this top of the locker and this brick line. It needs to have an angle somewhere in between those two lines. So I take my ruler, get it underneath this little dot that I made right here, kind of tilt it where it's not exactly parallel. See how it's a little bigger here and it's smaller here? Now I'm going to create a fake vanishing point right there. And now I'm going to make a little line in each one of these lockers. If you need to watch me before you do it, that's fine. Like so. Those are the top slits. Now the other three slits, I'm not going to take my ruler and just make them parallel to it, because if I do, all of a sudden the bottom slits are going to be going down into this brick. Notice that all of these slits, they need to be in the 1, 2, 3, 4. They need to be in this fourth brick. They have to stay in the same brick. So that's why we made this fake vanishing point. So what we can do now is we can take the ruler, make sure it touches the fake vanishing point. If it helps you, you may want to take the corner of your ruler. That helps you focus on it. And then slide it up. All right, that's pretty good. Now let's make a second set. 1. And again, we put these in the middle. We try to get them about the same length if we can. We can go back and fix them if they aren't. And there's usually 5 or 6. We're going to do 3. This one's a little short. Now what I want to do is, it's a good idea to kind of make it the same distance. So try to make it the same distance. Take it again to the same vanishing point. We're only doing 3. Now if you're doing 5 or 6, you'd have to get a lot closer together. They would still stay within the same brick lines though. And this makes those slits look like as if they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, just like the bricks are getting smaller and smaller, or just like the ceiling tiles, even though they're technically the same size, they look like they're getting smaller. By creating a fake temporary vanishing point and making sure that the slits stayed in between this brick line and this brick line, it will look the same. Okay. Now, one of the hardest parts that we do with lockers are the locks. And there's a couple different ways that locks are done. Sometimes they're inside of a box inside of the locker door. Sometimes they float outside. On this demonstration, we're just going to do the ones that float outside. So first of all, let's talk about alignment. What you want to do is count how many bricks up are the locks. Are the locks, here? Are they here? Where should they be? What if they're right here? You can either use a brick line like this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and say, okay, here's a mark, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, here's a mark. I'm going to put all my locks on here, and that's totally okay to do. If your locks were literally in the middle of a brick, you could go halfway down, then go halfway down on this one. As long as they stay in the same brick line, you're fine. I'm going to make a very light temporary line here, very temporary. It's not going to last forever. I'm going to end up erasing a lot of that away. That's just help me keep my locks on the same level. Let's say I want to make my locks down to here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to put it on this line. This is where the top of the locks are. And I'm going to create another fake vanishing point. I'll get rid of this one so I don't get confused. And notice that's not a consistent vanishing point for this one, like it is in linear perspective. Then I simply take this line and connect it. And this is going to help me get my locks in the right space. Now, technically, the locks have kind of like a little mechanism that kind of holds it in place. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and create an extra little bit of a line, go into the same vanishing point, and we'll use it for like a little mechanism that holds the lock in place. Now before we draw the locks on here, that's kind of small, we're going to show you on a separate piece of paper. Now we're going to do some of the same things that we did for the door handle earlier. Remember the door handle? Well, some of the things we did for it, we're also going to do for the locks that go over here. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to draw an ellipse similar to this, okay, but we're going to make an ellipse similar to that one. It could be the same thickness or thinness. And just like we made two horizontal lines here, we're going to make two horizontal lines here, but I'm going to go a little thicker this time. And this line is curved. Well, I'm going to curve this line just like it. I'm going to make it parallel to it. So it kind of makes it look like a drum, or like we talked about before in the earlier videos, like a hockey puck. And it's very similar to this, it's just thicker. Now, there's going to be a tumbler on here, little handle that you use. You're going to have a curve, kind of like what we did here. And then as far as this tumbler goes, you could, if you wanted to, you could angle it down. Sometimes they angle down and angle up. And you create another little ellipse like that. And that'll look like the little tumbler that goes inside. And it's a good idea to do this on a scrap piece of paper, practice it out, because if you can do it here, it'll be easier to do it when you do it smaller. Now, as far as the locking mechanism goes, you create a curve right here, go straight up, curve it over and behind it, then take this line, just curve it a little bit and stop it like that. And now it looks like a lock. And then, well, we leave that line there. Now, the part that this lock goes into, it kind of hides this part. It's kind of tricky, and when we get ready to do it, we may show you. I say, it's kind of looks a little bit like this. It goes up inside of it and through, and I'm just kind of making this up. It's better to look at a picture, and when we get ready to do the real hallway, we'll show you a little mechanism for doing that. But these are going to be so small, it's going to be kind of hard to do it realistically. So what we're going to do first is let's make some locks. We're going to make some ellipses like we did here. Horizontal line, copy the ellipse. And if you want to, you can just go ahead and keep on making those. Horizontal line, copy the ellipse. Make an ellipse. Horizontal line, copy that curve. And as it gets smaller and smaller, you want it to be nearly as detailed. And then you can try to suggest a handle, and it's going to be a lot smaller, so you probably won't have to go quite as detailed. Now, for some of you guys, you might be in a hallway where the lockers are really close to you, and you might have to get as detailed as this, possibly, especially if you're using a bigger sheet of paper. And then we're going to put in the little locking mechanism. And the way I did it was I made this curve go all the way around, and only made this line go part of the way up. And I guess I should create some kind of handle that it goes inside of, so I probably ought to have one more line right here going to that fake temporary vanishing point. And I can use that, and I'm just going to kind of fake it because it's so small. And again, we'll probably have, either you'll have a real lock reference or you'll have a picture of that lock reference and make it look real. And then when you're done, you just erase away those little guidelines. It's a good idea to go really light with those so they don't show up. And you can take I would use your ruler, and I'd go back over these and make these look a little nicer. And it makes it look like the locks are going back in space. So just do the best you can. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but just try to take it back to that point. All right, when we get back, we're going to show you what we're going to do to this space, and then we're going to start tackling this space.